Hey everyone, I'm Megyn Kelly. Welcome to the Megyn Kelly Show and our special coverage of the CNN presidential debate which just concluded. Joining me in just a bit, Dave Rubin will be here, also Eric Bolling, and we will be taking some calls at the end of the program from all of you. But first, we've got Rich Lowry, editor-in-chief of National Review, and Emily Jashinsky, D.C. correspondent for Unheard. They're going to join me in just a minute. But first, I just want to talk to you directly about what we just saw. In my view, it is over for Joe Biden. His presidential campaign came to an end tonight, whether he knows it or not. There will be meetings tonight, first thing tomorrow, amidst Democratic Party leaders about how to get him off the ticket, how to change in somebody else. There have to be. Already we're seeing some reaction come in from top Democrats who rarely criticize the president, suggesting he needs to have a serious look at this performance tonight and assess for himself whether he can go forward. That number will mount. There will be more and more. It was an unmitigated disaster. It was uncomfortable to watch. I sat with my family and friends, and for the first 25 minutes of the debate, we kept grabbing each other's arms. It was so jarring. He was so distant, so frail, so hard to comprehend, so unsteady. You honestly didn't know whether he was going to make it through the answer, never mind through the debate, much less through a second term. The contrast between Joe Biden and Donald Trump has never been more stark. Trump came out calm, cool, collected, in his own. He looked comfortable. Donald Trump Jr. tweeted out, I think actually the CNN format helped my dad. It helped him stay composed and presidential. I think he's right. The inability for him to interrupt Biden did wind up helping Trump. And he maintained his dignity for the most part. He was in control and strong for the entire time, unlike his opponent. I've never seen anything like that. I've never seen a politician at any level perform like Joe Biden performed tonight. And not only do I have questions about whether he will be his party's nominee, I have questions about whether he could possibly serve out his term. He's the president of the United States right now. That man who couldn't spit out numbers or say trillion or billion correctly and lied at every answer because he seemed confused. How is that our leader? How are the Democrats going to nominate that man? And shame on you, Jill Biden, for allowing that. I want answers from all these top Democrats who've been telling us how robust he is behind the scenes. That's who I want to hear from most. You lied. Did you not think this moment was going to come? That we would never see this? Why did you agree to put him out on the debate stage when you knew what the truth was and that we would eventually find it out for ourselves? It's a dark day for this country. He's our leader. No one wants to see him embarrassed, but we're embarrassed ourselves tonight. That's our president. And he could very well win a second term if the Democrats continue their lawfare, if the media doesn't do its job, if the Democrats don't do the responsible thing here. I want to get to Rich and Emily with their thoughts. Guys, thank you for joining me. Rich, what'd you think?
I don't think it was a great debate. It was painful to watch by the end. The argument over whose golf game is better and who has better handicap. And if the mics hadn't been cut, it probably would have descended into what the first debate in 2020 was like. So I agree with you that helped Trump. But Biden was terrible, like nightmarishly bad. We both had a lot of experience with Roger Ailes, who was a TV genius, if nothing else. And he always said, watch it with the sound down. And as soon as Biden walked out, before he said anything, you're like, oh my gosh, this guy's president of the United States. It looked like he was going to barely make it to the podium. He had this blank and confused look on all the split screens when he wasn't saying anything. And then when he talked, his voice was incredibly frail and weak. They're saying apparently getting out that he had a cold. I don't know, maybe he did have a cold, but if he did, he should have said immediately, oh, excuse my voice, I have a cold. And then there was the incoherence. Not every answer, but a lot of the answers they started okay, and then they faded into something just a jumble. the beat Medicare, we finally beat Medicare answer towards the beginning was maybe the foremost example of this. So it was a debacle for Joe Biden. I think Trump was, about half the debate was very good. I think he got overheated at moments and drawn into things he probably shouldn't have. But he had the better night by default, if nothing else.
I mean, I didn't think there was any question. Like, anybody who says Joe Biden won that debate is a dishonest person that you shouldn't be listening to. I do want to play that soundbite before I go to you, Emily, that Rich just referenced. I mean, we have multiple queued up showing Biden's utter confusion. He did not have the facts. He was confused over very basic facts, and it was repeated. Take a listen to this, SOT 3.
We have 1,000 trillionaires in America. I mean, billionaires in America. And what's happening? They're in a situation where they, in fact, pay 8.2% in taxes. If they just paid 24%, 25%, either one of those numbers, they'd raise $500 billion, I should say, in a 10-year period. We'd be able to wipe out his debt. We'd be able to help make sure that all those things we need to do, child care, elder care, making sure that we continue to strengthen our healthcare system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID. With dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump.
Oh my God, that's it. That's it, Emily. I mean, I'm looking at my own notes as this unfolded. And here's how they read. So rehearsed, so old, phlegm, needs subtitles. What is he saying? So fast, rehearsed, can barely understand. He's done. And so frail is my other. What was he saying? He beat Medicare, the trillions, the trillionaires, what he's done with COVID. He was all over the map.
And that was fairly early in the debate. So the vast majority of everybody who will consume the debate consumed that moment. So people saw that happen live. There's no spin in the world. There's no Joe Biden had a cold that can in any way whatsoever change people's opinion of what they saw happen in front of them on that. And, you said when you were in your opening, it sort of gave me chills. It's like a dark day in America. That is exactly how I feel. It's a very sad day to be an American because that is the president of the United States. The first lady is responsible for putting him in this position. There's no question about that in my mind. The people close to him are responsible for putting him in this position. And on top of that, we're seeing reactions roll in. The New York Times, during the debate, published a story saying that sources were telling one of their columnists, 3 Democratic sources telling their columnists that they were just stunned and shocked. We saw Casey Hunt say something similar over at MSNBC. And I'm curious, are they pretending to be surprised? Because people close to Joe Biden who have spent time with Joe Biden have got to have known. I mean, we saw him do a press conference not that long ago where he was telling everybody, Robert Hur was wrong and he was losing track of his sentences there. But here we are, fast forward to the debate. In addition to that Medicare answer, his answer on abortion became an answer on immigration. Yeah. It was impossible to follow. He had no train of thought to follow. It was a disaster. I've really never seen anything like it.
That was a critical moment. It was terrible. It was another moment where we were all grabbing each other in my house. Like, what just happened? The question was about abortion, and he brought Laken Riley into it without naming her, this nursing student in Georgia who was murdered by an illegal. Here is the moment sought for.
I am a person that believes. And frankly, I think it's important to believe in the exceptions. Some people, you have to follow your heart. Some people don't believe in that. But I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. I think it's very important. Some people don't. Follow your heart, but you have to get elected also, and because that has to do with other things.
It's been a terrible thing, what you've done. The idea that states are able to do this is a little like saying we're going to turn civil rights back to the states, let each state have a different rule. Look, there's so many young women who have been, including a young woman who just was murdered, and he went to the funeral. The idea that she was murdered by an immigrant coming in. They talk about that, but here's the deal: there's a lot of young women are being raped by their in-laws, by their by their spouses, brothers and sisters, it's just ridiculous.
Oh my God. Guys.
Bizarre. I mean, the only word for it is bizarre, right? I mean, what is, sometimes he's mumbly and confused, but kind of know what he's getting at.
Depressing.
Yes, that's a good word. But this is hard, beyond comprehension. Unrecoverable. He cannot go on. That's it. Those were the moments. I don't care. He did improve slightly toward the ends of the 90 minutes. It's irrelevant. Remember the time we saw him confuse two critical pieces of his legislation? I don't remember the two that he got confused, but he was in the midst of trying to make a point about one, and he meandered over and started talking about the other. And we were all like, what did he just do? He juxtaposed the legislation and trying to make his point. It wasn't a one-off. He can't keep the facts straight in his own head about something as simple as abortion versus illegal immigration. He had his rehearsed lines, and like a robot, Emily, he got a glitch that wasn't fixable without the handlers.
And he spent the last week not being president of the United States, but in at Camp David, doing debate prep. And, not being the president of the United States, he was obviously doing both, but it's highly unusual to take an entire week while you're president of the United States, go to Camp David and prep. What's even more unusual, obviously, is then to come out looking like there was no prep in the world that could have prepared you to answer a basic question. My word association with that clip is medical. This is medical. For all of the conversation about Donald Trump and the 25th Amendment during his presidency, I mean, that has to be seriously on the table as the American people figure out what is going on with the man who is making nuclear decisions. There are two hot wars right now, one in Ukraine, one in the Middle East. And this is the man with the power over our military. That is the commander in chief. It's beyond a presidential election. I think what everybody just saw, those clips are going to be so viral. Forget how many people actually even watched this live. I think the number was pretty high. But Biden's moments there, they will be viral. They will live in infamy. They will never, ever, ever escape him. His entire reputation will be tethered to this for the rest of his life.
I agree with every word you just said, Rich. I feel like we're in danger tonight. The country's now in danger.
Yeah, but this isn't really news. It just has brought it home more starkly. And it kind of makes you think, what were they thinking, right? They didn't need to agree to debates. It would have been embarrassing. The Trump camp would have said, look, he's running scared. He can't do it. But it'd be better to have people saying you can't do it rather than going out and demonstrating you can't do it. And, 9 o'clock at night for this man now, it's like 1 a.m, right? And Emily's point is exactly right. This is after a week of preparation. This isn't like a president of the United States that we've traditionally seen that doesn't do well in the first debate because they're not prepared, and they're not ready for it and they take it too casually, right? No, this is a guy who's been doing nothing else, and probably all day today he was sleeping with cucumber slices over his eyes, and this is the best they could get out of him. And these moments, because they're weird, maybe they're a little funny, probably more sad as you put it, but they're weird, so they'll be played over and over again, and they will be the main impression out of the debate, no doubt.
We've never seen anything like it. Rick Perry lost his presidential race. He was trying to become the Republican nominee because he said there are 3 agencies we should eliminate, and he couldn't remember one. That was enough to eliminate him as a candidate for president. This president can't understand the difference between abortion and illegal immigration. What does it even mean he did beat Medicare? Those are just some examples. We have many more of what's leading to the panic at this moment within the Democratic Party. Forget the country. We should all be panicked. But the Democratic Party is at, I think, a 10 right now. This from, I mentioned it in passing, Nick Kristof of the New York Times. I wish Biden would reflect on this debate performance and then announce his decision to withdraw from this race, throwing the choice of Democratic nominee to the convention. Someone like Gretchen Whitmer or Sherrod Brown or Secretary Raimondo could still jump in and beat Trump. And then there's Joy Reid over at MSNBC. Watch this.
I, too, was on the phone throughout much of the debate with Obama world people, with Democrats, with people who are political operatives, with campaign operatives. My phone really never stopped buzzing throughout. And the universal reaction was somewhere approaching panic. The people who were texting with me were very concerned about President Biden seeming extremely feeble, seeming extremely weak.
Yeah, that sounds honest for once from her, Emily.
Yeah, it does. But Rich made a really good point just now that it's not necessarily new. And there were people who were reporting on this in different publications when they were allowed to, who were getting absolutely hammered for trying to tell the American people that there were concerns in private about this. So it's hard for me to listen to Joy Reid say that on air right now, because I just don't believe, I do not believe that if she's on the phone with Obama world during this debate, those same people were not telling her it's been bad all along. They're not able to get away with the lie anymore. And it's really sickening. I don't think Biden actually even has, after watching that, I don't think he has the mental capacity to make the decision that Nicholas Kristof is asking him to make. Nicholas Kristof is asking him to reflect on the debate and make a decision. Joe Biden didn't seem to know where he was at certain moments of that debate. He cannot competently make that decision.
That's another piece
Megyn, just
that we
to pile on
haven't touched
this,
on, Rich. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead. You go.
I was just going to say, to pile on the point you made earlier, and that Emily was underlining there. Morning Joe, every morning practically, they're lying about Joe Biden. He's as sharp as he's ever been. There was a Wall Street Journal article a couple weeks ago. It wasn't. It didn't really, I think, quite bell the cat about Joe Biden's mental state, but it said people are in meetings with him. He doesn't realize what's been agreed to a week ago, and he repeats himself. It wasn't the harshest thing you could say. And Morning Joe was outraged by this piece. Outraged. So this is a case where they've been hoisted by their own propaganda, right? They should have said they knew this a year ago. They should have said it out loud a year ago, and then you maybe forced Joe Biden's hand. And I think Jill's the right one to focus on. No delegation could have gone to Joe Biden and get him to quit. Jill could have gotten him to quit, and then you could have a primary process in good order. Now they're in an extremely tough position, because when you got to convince him to go, if you want him to go, that's the only mechanism that would work, is him voluntarily deciding to go. And then that's kind of admission that he was a failed president and he wasn't up for the job, and you lied about it for a couple of years. And then who's going to take over is another big question mark. Who's going to take over the nomination? Who's going to take over potentially the presidency? So now they're because they lied to us and wouldn't recognize the obvious truth, they're in this almost impossible position.
Not only is it Kristof and Joy Reid, here's David Axelrod. There was a sense of shock in response to Biden's performance. That's a quote. There will be a discussion about whether he should continue, end quote. Kate Bedingfield, who worked for the campaign, it was a really disappointing debate performance from Joe Biden. I don't think there's any other way to slice it. His biggest issue was to prove to the American people that he had the energy, the stamina, and he didn't do that. Now, I realize that's rather mild based on what we saw, but that's from somebody who worked for the guy. There's no spinning this away. It wasn't a loss. It was a devastation. What happened out there? This goes so far beyond anything we have ever seen at a presidential debate, at any debate that I can remember. And I study these things before all the debates that I do and all of the debates that I cover. We go back through history, we pull our favorite moments, and we pull the biggest gaffes and the biggest disasters and the biggest wins. We've never seen anything like this. We were almost facetiously saying, his job is to remain upright for 90 minutes. Can he do it? It shouldn't have been facetious. It was a real question. And even watching him during the debate, you guys, his face looked bizarre. Yeah. He looked confused, disoriented, very elderly. The pallor of his skin, something was odd about his eyes, about the way his mouth hung. Everything about him projected unhealthy, unwell, and forgive me, but near crossing over to the other side. I mean, we've all seen it. I don't say it to be cruel.
I
that is what I
understand.
observed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it made me sad, and then it made me angry at the people who had put, not only him, there's a human reaction you have, there's something visceral that just comes out in you when you watch an old man struggling in public like that, forget that he's the president of the United States and put himself in this position, which I think you're going to hear Democrats say is very selfish. So that's a conversation that will be had and should be had, but just human to human, you feel badly for the other person. And then it made me angry because I realized that there were a lot of people who knew that this man who is in this condition, it is a medical condition clearly, is running the country and is running the free world. And there are troops. This is another one of his worst moments in the debate is when he said that no troops are dying under Joe Biden's watch, which downplays, minimizes, erases the deaths of troops that have happened under Joe Biden's watch. But those troops, at the end of the day, that is their commander in chief, and they deserve so much better. They deserve so much better than that.
Yeah, it's a national embarrassment.
Can we let's just play that? Can we play? Let me play that because that was a big moment. To claim that no troops died on his watch is such an affront to the service personnel who gave their lives in Afghanistan. It's SOT 2. Let's listen to it.
Military, when he was president, they were still killing people in Afghanistan. He didn't do anything about that. When he was president, we were still found ourselves in a position where you had a notion that we were this safe country. The truth is, I'm the only president this century that doesn't have this decade, that doesn't have any troops dying anywhere in the world like he did.
I was getting out of Afghanistan, but we were getting out with dignity, with strength, with power. He got out. It was the most embarrassing day in the history of our country's life.
How dare he say that, Rich?
Yeah, but it's one of these things, right? It's most of his career to say, okay, he's lying, right? Does he know? Does he remember? I mean, I think that's a legitimate question. He's always been kind of a bloviator. He adopted someone else's life story in a speech, in 1988. But I don't know whether he knows, about those 13 service members who died tragically in the bombing when we were withdrawing from Afghanistan. And I think, most of this, it had nothing to do with Trump. Trump didn't even have to say anything the entire debate. And just what we're talking about was all just Biden, and not even Biden really under pressure from Trump, right? Like, it's not like he baited him into saying we're going to beat Medicare, right? Where we beat Medicare is something that Biden came up with himself. I will say on Trump, though, his strongest points were when he hit the Afghan withdrawal and the sense of American weakness abroad, which very much accorded with what you saw on the stage, because it was hard to believe that guy's commander in chief. And then just coming back again and again on the border and on immigration. And what Trump says, about some of this stuff is pretty, they're not literally emptying out their prisons. There may be some prisoners, but almost anything he says now has credibility on immigration because opinion has shifted so far right on that issue in reaction to the deliberate failure at the border we've seen the last 3.5 years.
By the way, just for the record, 13 service members died in our disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan on Joe Biden's watch. And we lost another 3 in Jordan in January. And for him to stand up there with the families undoubtedly watching, saying no one has died on my watch is completely disrespectful. But of course, once again, he did manage to work Beau Biden into the discussion. It's just absolutely disgraceful. And to your point, I don't know whether he doesn't remember, doesn't know. I don't really care. He's unfit. Remember that word all over the papers when Donald Trump was president? He's unfit. And I just want to show you, Rich, because we pulled it. Well, you're talking about Morning Joe after that Wall Street Journal piece, which, as you point out, among all the pieces that have been done, like it wasn't that bad. There have been worse ones. Right. But there was a big reaction to the Wall Street Journal piece. And this is what we saw on MSNBC.
Why didn't they just ask Marjorie Taylor Greene?
Well, exactly. Why did? They could have.
And Lauren Boebert.
Yeah, it's really shocking. I've spent time with both of those guys privately. I've spent time with Biden and Trump privately. I've spent time with every House Speaker over the past 30 years, and Joe Biden. It's just not close. Joe Biden is light years ahead of all of them.
What a lie. Yeah,
and told self-righteously, right? Like everyone else is the liar. And again, if I knew this, if you knew this, if Emily knew this, they knew it, right? It's not as though, it makes no sense, right, that Biden would go out in public and look confused, but be really with it in private, right? You'd go out of your way to look with it in public if you could, if you're a politician. But he can't. And we've seen that blank look before. You know, the D-Day, the thing with him squatting in the chair was a little exaggerated. But when he got out of the beast, you know, the big SUV style limo he uses, and he just looked like that for like 45 seconds. It's not normal. Joe Biden never looked like that before. No other public official ever looks like that. And what we saw tonight was almost 90 minutes of that look. And it's just devastating.
Mm-hmm. Unfit. Those are the two themes of what I saw tonight. Unfit and complicit. The media allies of his, the top Democrats all over the news trying to tell us how robust he is. And if we could just see the Joe Biden they've seen behind closed doors, they're complicit. And I said this on my show the day we ran that Joe Scarborough clip in response to the Wall Street Journal article. Why did he do it? I'll tell you why. Because he wants to be close to power. It's a theme we've hit many times on this show. We're past the days when journalists were antagonists of people in power, where they're working class, where they're shoe leather reporters, where they're irascible, they're challenging, they're skeptical about everything that they're told by these highfalutin sources. Now we have the Joe Scarboroughs who want to be invited to Camp David, who want to be invited to a state dinner. That's what's more important. That's why he's running cover, because he wants the access to the next president of the United States. It's a complete dereliction. He lied. The MSNBC viewers should know that he lied, and the American public needs to hold together in spirit tonight because our country's in trouble.
I was going to say,
ahead,
I
Emily.
am so curious to hear Morning Joe tomorrow, because if they try to say that they were surprised by this, if they try to say that, everyone should know they are only saying that because they can no longer get away with the lie. That's it. We're going to hear it.
Yeah.
We've already heard it. Journalists saying their sources are so surprised. They're doing that because they can't get away with the lie because you all saw it on live television.
Or it was his cold. Okay, his cold. That's what made him not understand that he was talking about abortion, not immigration. That's what made him meander on that one answer where we don't even know what he's talking about. He killed Medicaid. Okay, I mean, it's a lie. And by the way, if he really had a cold, I bet you dollars to donuts they would have released that before the debate. The Dems would have been all over the place with it.
It was a sudden onset cold. The cold started at 9:15 p.m. when they realized the reaction.
Right. FYI, he's not feeling well. You know, he's on cold medication. Set the expectations. That's only coming out now. Oh, okay. He was examined by the doctor and they thought he had COVID. He doesn't. Okay. I don't buy any of that. Rich and Emily, thank you so much. Great to see you, my friends.
Thank you.
Thanks, Megyn.
Dave Rubin is up next, Eric Bolling later, and we'll be taking some of your calls in just a bit. You can call me, 833-44-MEGYN. That's 833-446-3496. First, Grand Canyon University, a private Christian university in beautiful Phoenix, Arizona, believes that we're endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. GCU believes in equal opportunity and that the American dream starts with purpose. By honoring your career calling, you can impact your family, friends, and your community. Change the world for good by putting others before yourself. Whether your pursuit involves a bachelor's, master's, or doctoral degree, GCU's online, on-campus, and hybrid learning environments are designed to help you achieve your unique academic, personal, and professional goals. With over 330 academic programs, GCU meets you where you are and provides a path to help you fulfill your dreams. The pursuit to serve others is yours. Let it flourish. Find your purpose at Grand Canyon University. Private, Christian, affordable. Visit gcu.edu. And joining me now, Dave Rubin. He's host of the Rubin Report. Dave, welcome back to the show. Your thoughts on what we just saw.
Lordy, Megyn. I don't know that I can do it much better than you did it just now, as I heard the last 10 minutes or so. But the only thing that this was about was Joe Biden's mental acuity or lack thereof. There's nothing else that we need to talk about, actually. We can talk about the lies and the confusion and all of that stuff, you know, the political part of it. But the simple truth was everyone that watched that debate in America was doing the exact same thing, going, holy cow, when is it going to break down? How's he going to break down? How is Jake Tapper or the mics being cut or whatever else going to run cover for him? And we saw them do it a multitude of times. That first moment that was in the first 10 minutes where he really started breaking down and mumbling, that could have ended it all right there, but Tapper saved him. And then, of course, just virtually everything he said was either the reverse of the truth or a confusion or a projection or it just did not make sense, which Trump made a point of. So I can sit here and tell you some nice things about Trump. I thought he was controlled and measured for the most part. I thought he was on message and was, particularly good at hitting things on immigration and drugs and stuff like that. But I think that the system just got the signal tonight. Joe Biden is toast. And, you mentioned two pillars of this sort of, that there's Joe Biden's unfit ability to be president, which that has been obvious to everyone. The more interesting one is the second part that you talked about, the media part, and that Joe Scarborough clip that you played. We've played that on my show many times as well. And it's like, you're right. He wants to be close to power, but I would say there's something even slightly more nefarious than that, which is that these people in effect, are paid to lie. Joe Scarborough has that job with his wife sitting next to him because they are paid to push that propaganda. Joy Reid, who apparently now post-debate is calling Obama people and they're like all freaking out right now, she is paid to lie. Now, she's not paid to lie to necessarily suck up to Biden that much because she's more on the progressive side, but she's paid to lie when it pertains to wokeness and DEI and CRT and the rest of it. So when you start understanding that, and I know you understand it as someone that came from cable news, then the rest of the picture becomes very clear. But I don't see how anyone in their right mind could have watched that debate. Even if you hate Trump and you have Trump derangement syndrome and you think all the January 6th stuff is legit and everything else, I do not know how one person in America could have watched that debate and thought Joe Biden is fit to be president. That is the only thing that matters right now.
No, so I'm looking for the people saying, no, you know what, you're being too hard on him. I'm not seeing it. In fact, I'm seeing some very different reactions I'm going to play for you in 1 second. First of all, let me show you this video. Here is video of Jill Biden guiding the commander-in-chief off of the stage. There she is up there, just like we've seen everywhere. She's got to go get him. Shame on her. Look at her.
Shame on her.
She's helping him down the steps. Yeah, shame on her, Dave Rubin. Shame on her.
Let's not forget, Megyn, that Whoopi Goldberg thought that Dr. Jill Biden should be Surgeon General. Remember that one? She's not that type of doctor.
If only she really did have medical abilities.
Right. Look, all of it. Doesn't it feel like the system just finished him tonight? Like this was the last chance that maybe he could be drugged up enough to go ahead. I would say, the biggest loser tonight may not be Joe Biden, because I don't know that he even wants this. Who knows what's really going on in the recesses of his mind? The biggest loser of this might be Barack Obama, because it's fairly obvious that this has been Obama's third term, that Obama people are running the show here. Everyone knows Joe Biden. Yes, it might say his name on the desk in the Oval Office, but he has not been the president. The decisions are not being made by him. I don't even think he's privy to half of the decisions. He's signing things probably that he has no idea what he's signing. I would say that Obama got his third term, as Obama said years ago. Remember, if I could just not be the president, but have the mic in somebody's ear and all that. And Obama now probably has to escalate whatever the plan is to replace Biden. So, Gavin Newsom showed up there, the devil incarnate. He was on location over there at the debate tonight. We will see what they do. I heard your previous guest mention a couple other people. Now Gretchen Whitmer keeps being talked about, but they have a very thin bench and they have a very fractured party. And that's why, that I've been very focused on trying to take sort of moderate Democrats and people that have woken up to the lunacy of the left and encourage Trump to create the widest tent ever. And I think there's an opportunity for that, which again, we don't even really have to talk about Trump here, but that's why I was really impressed with him. He let Biden kind of break down. He did not go too crazy.
He controlled his facial expressions. The golf thing was amazing. But wait, let me get to some of the reaction that's pouring in right now, because it's pretty extraordinary what we're hearing. You mentioned Obama. David Plouffe helped get Barack Obama elected. And here he is on MSNBC with Rachel Maddow. Listen.
President Obama's campaign manager in 2008, David Plouffe, is with us. David, I know you have been talking to some muckety-mucks in Democratic politics, including what we gingerly call the donor class. What was your personal David Plouffe take on what you saw tonight, and what are you hearing from the people you've been speaking with?
Well, I think consistent with your reaction, Rachel, and others on the panel, it's kind of a DEFCON 1 moment.
DEFCON 1. Here is John King of CNN with more.
Anderson, this was a game-changing debate in the sense that right now, as we speak, there is a deep, a wide, and a very aggressive panic. It involves party strategists, it involves elected officials, it involves fundraisers. And they're having conversations about the president's performance, which they think was dismal, which they think will hurt other people down the party in the ticket, and they're having conversations about what they should do about it. Some of those conversations include, should we go to the White House and ask the president to step aside? Other of the conversations are about, should prominent Democrats go public with that call? Because they feel this debate was so terrible.
Buckle up, Dave. This is going to be a rough next couple of months because the Democratic convention is now weeks away. It's in August in Chicago, and the Biden campaign is already trying to set it up such that the actual nomination will be done virtually weeks before that. So he's locked in as the nominee. What they'll do to stop it, I know not, but I think they're finally convinced.
What an absolute farce all of these people are. They have been running cover for Joe Biden. They have been running cover for this administration. They have pretended that we didn't see what we've all seen, the flubs and confusions and muddling and making and who's in charge. Remember, that's his other thing, right? When he takes questions every now and again, he'll start saying something and he goes, oh, I'm not supposed to say that. I'll get in trouble. Like, there's been so many red flags here. So many alarms have been going off.
They actually were calling us ableist. They were calling us ableist, right? Keep going. Sorry.
No, well, I'm not going to curse on the Megyn Kelly Show, but I would basically say F you to all of these people. They have now put us in this situation where we are a month away from a convention, as you just laid out, and they are about to swap him out. So everything that we've been dealing with for the last year, in essence, thinking that it was going to be Trump and Biden, they are done with Biden. And they just put us through all of this on top of the fact that, I think we could probably deal with it if the world was in a bit of a better spot. But we have this insane Russia-Ukraine war, non-war that we're funding, but we're not in, something like that. The Israel-Hamas thing is actually secondary now to a much bigger war that could blow up with Hezbollah in Lebanon, and that could bring in several other countries. Obviously, we're having economic problems here. Just look at the interest rates or go to the supermarket. Like, there's serious stuff. If things were just kind of working, then I think we could put up with, having a guy that was a little confused and everything else, and we would just joke about it. But everything you said a moment before I came on about the way his mouth was, the staring off into complete blankness, the sentences that went nowhere. It's enough now. If you've been pretending not to see it, if you're watching this and you were just kind of on the fence, you have to see it now. This is serious stuff at this point.
Here is Van Jones of CNN.
That was painful. I love Joe Biden. I work for Joe Biden. He didn't do well at all. He did not do well at all. And he looked, I'll give you the analysis, you kind of have the old man versus the con man. I can walk you through how I'm supposed to see it and say it, but I just want to speak from my heart. I love that guy. That's a good man. He loves his country. He's doing the best that he can. But he had a test to meet tonight to restore confidence of the country and of the base, and he failed to do that. And I think there's a lot of people who are going to want to see him consider taking a different course now. We're still far from our convention, and there is time for this party to figure out a different way forward if he will allow us to do that. But that was not what we needed from Joe Biden, and it's personally painful for a lot of people. It's not just panic, it's pain for what we saw tonight.
And one more, Dave. Listen to this. This just in from CBS News and Ed O'Keefe, the White House reporter.
There are at least some House Democrats who were gathered tonight watching this together, talking to the White House about having him step down. That's how bad it was in their view. Remember, House Democrats are on the verge of trying to get back the majority. They're nervous about doing that in places in these battleground states where they're going to need a strong top of the ticket. They may need to rely on a strong Senate or gubernatorial candidate, and in some cases they don't have it.
Step down before the convention?
Well, to at least throw up somebody else instead of the president that debated tonight.
Dave, Biden's presidency, never mind his second term, is disintegrating before our very eyes.
Look, the truth is a time release pill, and we are now seeing people who have laundered the lies and told us not to see what we see in front of us now being confronted with the obvious reality. They can all, you know, it's interesting. Van Jones, he's sort of emoting there and he loves him and all of that stuff. But it's like, dude, you knew. You didn't just magically see something that came out of nowhere. We have all known this. So you have all been part of it. And now whatever, they've all been given the signal. Oh, someone else is talking about it. Now somebody else will talk about it. Somebody else will talk about it. And we will get rid of him. And by the way, if you're Joe Biden, for whatever's left of Joe Biden. And by the way, I had two grandmothers that I lost to dementia and Alzheimer's related issues that I spent a lot of time with one of them, particularly towards the end, dealing with that and going to doctors. So for all the glibness that we can make of this, it's deeply depressing. But Biden should not have to spend his last few years in this situation. This isn't the right ending of any man being propped up there, which is why your comments on Jill Biden are totally right. But look, as this ship sinks further, the rats are going to scurry. And there's the other part of this, of course, Megyn, is that there's a huge scandal here. They have been drugging him, obviously. People know what's going on. There is some doctor that knows what's going on. Does Karine Jean-Pierre know? I don't know, but I guarantee you Jill Biden knows, and probably the chief of staff knows, and a couple other people. But now that the signal's out there and there's blood around him, in essence, somebody's going to break, and then it'll be like, I was the one. A couple months ago, I was telling everybody we had to do something about this. So we have completely, I would say, traversed into new territory tonight, and it has almost nothing to do with any of the issues that will fix America, and that's the deeply depressing part.
There will be piece after piece after piece in the papers now of exactly those people you just mentioned. I knew, I tried to warn. White House sources say they've been trying to warn people for months. And you're right, they'll start turning on each other. Because when you have Joy Reid and David Plouffe, right? She's the more woke squad dem, and David Plouffe is the more Obama sort of seasoned, whatever, distinguished. They're not exactly squaddy dem. And, the Van Joneses of the world all saying it's panic and he might actually need to step down. You have a genuine crisis on your hands. And the press will start printing those stories immediately, which will lead to just more feeding frenzy. And the only question is whether they can do it. Is there enough time? Oh, please. Oh, come on. Here's Jill Biden lying again.
Oh, Lord.
Joe, you did such a great job. You answered every question. You knew all the facts.
Oh my God.
It's like talking to a third grader. She's
talking to him like he's a baby. Yes, right. You have two babies right now. That's how you talk to them, is it not? You got all the... Can we listen to it again? We need to listen to it again.
I actually don't talk down to them.
Joe, you did such a great job. You answered every question. You knew all the facts.
Oh my God, Dave.
Unbelievable. Megyn, I do want to be very clear. I don't talk down to my children. I talk to them like adults. They're only about 1.5, but Justin will look at me sometimes and he'll be like, dude, I'm a kid. Come on. But that is just so embarrassing. And she is so in on it. If you want to be angry at somebody tonight, like we can be angry at all of the media people, but everyone in America really should be angry at Jill Biden. It's elder abuse, what she has done in her quest for power or whatever deal she has made with Obama or anything else. I mean, my God, you answered every question. First of all, that's not even true. He rambled incoherently.
Here's a statement from the Biden campaign on tonight's debate. Tonight, President Biden presented a positive and winning vision for the future of America, one in which every American has a fair shot at the American dream, where every one of our rights are protected, and where our president fights to strengthen our democracy, not tear it down. On the other side of the stage was Donald Trump, dark, backwards window, terrible, terrible, terrible. Trump's performance tonight reminded the American people why they fired him 4 years ago and reinforced just how high the stakes are this November for the future of our country. Well, I agree with those last 4 words. This is a pathetic attempt to spin like his positive vision. This isn't going to fly. For once, it doesn't seem like the media is going along, and they can't. They can't, because to your point earlier, they've been exposed. The jig is up. We've seen it. We've seen it repeatedly before tonight. The bullshit, not deep fakes. What is Karine Jean-Pierre? Cheap fakes. Excuse is not going to fly. It's a lie. They've been lying and spinning, and it's the country that's at stake. Shame on them all. Dave Rubin, my friend, so glad you could join us, and I'll give you the last word.
Well, I would just say, if you want absolute proof of what you just said right there, think about it. When they talked about the very fine people moment, which is a complete hoax, and Trump addressed it as a hoax, Biden still was pretending it was real. Jake Tapper, who many, many times on his show over the years has said it was true. If Biden had not completely broke down tonight, all of the people that we just showed from CNN and MSNBC and everywhere else, they would have still been laundering that lie. So it's not that they won't lie. It's that now it is so evident, it is so cataclysmically evident to everyone that they are going to have to either lie in a whole new way, or who knows what tricks they have up their sleeve. But I think the dam has broken, and we're in a very different situation starting right now.
Yeah, I think you mean Jake Tapper has admitted it's not true. He's on record as saying this is, at least I saw a clip of him saying it's much more nuanced than you're suggesting. But that lie about whether Trump called white supremacists in Charlottesville very good people has been debunked over and over. It was amazing Biden took that risk. It truly was as if he hadn't seen. Yeah, it was truly like he hadn't seen the fact checks, including one that just came out the other day, which I just tweeted out tonight if you want to check my Twitter feed. Dave, thank you. Great to see you.
Good to see you, my friend.
Up next, Eric Bolling. And we'll also take some of your calls. I want to talk to Eric about Trump's performance too. He knows Trump very well. He's a big fan. And that we just saw a totally different Donald Trump tonight. We just saw, if that Donald Trump stays on this campaign trail from now through November, he can't lose. He can't lose. That's the Trump we need to see. Whatever it takes. Love to know your thoughts. Get on the line at 833-44-MEGYN, 833-446-3496. First, though, we recently had some huge news that no one seems to be talking about. For the first time in history, the interest we pay on the national debt surpassed every individual budget item except Social Security. Yes, the U.S. now spends more on interest than on national defense or even Medicare. And it's only getting worse as big government continues to spend like a bunch of drunken sailors. That is why savvy investors, central banks, and concerned savers are looking at gold, something not tied to the inflated U.S. dollar. You can too, with the help of Birch Gold. For over 20 years, Birch Gold Group, which really is the gold standard, has helped thousands of Americans protect their savings by converting an IRA or 401k into an IRA in physical gold. If you want to learn more, and you should, because diversifying is important at a time like this, text MK to 989898 to get some more information, and you can claim your free no obligation info kit on gold. Birch Gold uses an education-first approach. They've got thousands of happy customers. They're off the charts positive with the Better Business Bureau, and they've got countless of 5-star reviews. Consider protecting your savings and text MK to 989898 today. Okay, in just a little bit, I'm going to be taking your calls. Who do you think won the debate? Honestly, that's like what we always ask, but a better question at this point is, do you think that Biden is going to remain the nominee? Will Biden remain the nominee? Call me, 833-44-MEGYN. That's 833-446-3496. But first, I'm joined by Eric Bolling, host of the Eric Bolling podcast. Eric, welcome back to the show. Your reaction to what happened tonight.
Well, basically everything you and David just talked about, Megyn. I'm glad you ended with that Karine Jean-Pierre deep fakes comment that she came out, because, for the better part of the last couple of weeks, they're saying that all the things that we're seeing on on X, on social media, and then makes its way to cable news eventually. Biden making mistakes, Biden tripping, Biden going the wrong way, Biden getting lost with a G7 meeting, he having to be brought back by an Italian president or prime minister. Those were all fake and they weren't real. Those were right-wing extremists putting out deep fakes. What we saw tonight, Megyn, within 5 seconds of the debate was Joe Biden is severely in trouble. He's demented. It was awful. You couldn't hear him. He was mumbling. He got lost. One of the first longer comments he made, he got lost. He walked himself right into a dead end, had to stop and mumble something about Medicare, and Trump just hit that ball right over the left field fence by saying, yeah, you crushed Medicare, you destroyed Medicare, and it went downhill for Biden from there. I will agree with a lot of things that I'm hearing. I watched CNN right after the debate. Very interesting. Yeah, Van Jones, he did something important. So the debate ends and they go around the table. And of course, the first few are the pundits. And the pundits are, oh, Trump was lying. He was terrible. Joe was so strong. And then the people who knew stepped up. They became adults in the room. Van was the first one to say, I love Joe Biden. Joe Biden loves his country. That man is not ready for a second term. They need to replace Joe Biden. And then fortunately, David Axelrod, who was pretty much the brains behind Barack Obama's presidency, agreed with Dan Jones. So the people who know realize that the Democrats are going to have to replace him. And I think it's important that you're talking about who won the debate. No, that's not relevant anymore because Trump did a fantastic job. If you look on Twitter, trending on Twitter, number one trend is debates. But then it comes down to Kamala Harris. Oh, and then there's Bernie Sanders. Oh, and then there's Michelle Obama. These are trending on Twitter right now, post-debate. Hillary Clinton, Mike Obama, which is a shot at Michelle. I mean, so the vast majority of trending
They're looking
on
at
Twitter
other
right
options.
Who's going to replace Joe Biden? Because I think the world
who's the pinch hitter?
Twitter or X.
It's not just the names you mentioned or the ones I mentioned. The reaction continues to come in from the left-wing media. I give you Kristen Welker on NBC moments ago. Watch.
There is widespread panic among Democrats. I got a number of text messages this evening, Democrats reaching out to say this is difficult to watch. Where does this go from here? One Democratic lawmaker, Tom, going so far as to say this race is effectively over.
Wow.
Yeah.
Think about that.
It's over.
We just heard NBC News with MSNBC say the race is over. It's done. Widespread panic, meetings amongst lawmakers, according to CBS News, about going to the White House to tell them he must step out. This cannot go on. This just dropping here in the Atlantic. A disaster for Joe Biden is the headline. There will be many more just like this. Go ahead, Eric.
So doesn't this feel, you and I have done this for the better part of 30 years, Megyn, doesn't this feel like the media is telling the Democrat Party and the White House, guys, we can't hide for you. We can't cover for you anymore.
You've been
exposed. You can't do it. We've provided the cover for you up until now. Now the game is up. We can't do it. So if you want to do this, you're on your own, and you'll lose. They're basically telling effectively NBC, the Atlantic, others, all the left-wing media that have been the shills for the Biden presidency for 3.5 years, 4 years since he's been running, have said, if you're going to run Biden, you're going to lose. We highly recommend you figure out who the next. Very interesting. Gavin Newsom was over on MSNBC post-debate. I don't know. He's throwing his hat in the ring.
That's the thing. Who do they have, Eric?
Michelle Obama.
Who do they have?
Michelle Obama is the one they
Michelle
all
Obama
want.
hates politics. I know, but she hates politics. I mean, absolutely hates it. Today, there was an article, I think it was Axios, talking about how she's not helping the Biden campaign. Apparently, there's a rift because she's upset that they didn't treat Hunter's ex-wife better. But even in there, it was underscoring how she loathes politics, wants nothing to do with it. I don't know. Gretchen Whitmer, people don't really know her. Within the Democratic Party, yes.
She can't win.
She doesn't have the kind of national name, right? Is there anybody other than Michelle Obama who could actually make this a race with Trump now?
Hillary. There's another way to do this. There's another, I know, but there's a way to do this. And I don't know, you need to talk to some high level Democrat operatives. They could replace Kamala Harris and put someone like Hillary or Michelle Obama in the vice president spot, and then hopefully pull off a win and then have Joe step aside and they can put in a second in charge from there. That's a way to save face for Biden, but then you run the risk of not winning. I mean, this is a 5-alarm fire for them right now. They need to figure it out, and they've got exactly 2 months till the Democrat DNC convention to make their move. They'll probably talk, my guess is they're going to talk Joe. Again, Megyn Kelly, I adore you. You've spent countless hours at the White House, as I have. When you're in the White House and the president and the first lady or the first family are around, the seas part. There's dozens of Secret Service people. There's dozens of handlers helping you lift your finger, put your shirt on. The ego gratification of being a president, a first lady, a first family member is insane. It's intense. Everything is taken care of for you. Michelle may hate politics, but I guarantee the Obamas love the lifestyle of living at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue and all the bells and whistles that come with it. The Air Force One, everywhere you go, you step off the plane, you step into wherever you're headed, the path has been predetermined for you. It's a crazy,
not to mention the chance of being
lifestyle.
the first female president. Not to mention the chance of being the first female president. And if they came to her and 100%. Said, your country needs you. If you don't do this, it is a guarantee that Donald Trump will be president again. And you know, they genuinely see him as a Hitler-esque figure. I'm just going to give you a little bit more. First, let's play Chuck Todd and his reaction at NBC.
One of the things was, would either candidate look like the caricature that the other campaign has been trying to paint of him? And at the end of the day, Joe Biden looks like the caricature that conservative media has been painting. And there were no clips tonight, right? This was, you saw it before your eyes. Look, I don't want to just tell you what I think here, Tom. I've been talking to a lot of leaders in the Democratic Party, electeds, coalition leaders. There's a full-on panic about this performance. Not like, oh, this is recoverable. It is more of a, okay, he's got to step aside. There's a lot of that chatter. This is about as bad of a performance in order to that Biden could have delivered if his goal was to try to sort of calm the waters among Democrats. I mean, look.
Yeah, if that was his goal, he failed. I mean, we've heard it now across the board. CBS, CNN, MSNBC, NBC, The Atlantic just pulled up this piece, a disaster for Joe Biden. In tonight's first debate of the presidential campaign, the president appeared meandering, confused, and extremely frail. His performance was at times almost physically uncomfortable to watch and will greatly amplify the calls for him to step aside. When the debates were announced in May, some pundits viewed it as a win for Biden, who was trailing Trump narrowly but consistently. His campaign wanted to put Trump in front of the Americans early in the campaign and remind them of the chaos and division he produced. It was a bold gamble by the president, and he lost. Oh boy, did he ever. It's across the board. My phone's blowing up. Every single pundit, every single person with any connection to Democrat officials, Eric, is saying he's done. I don't even know if he's going to finish his presidency at this point.
So let's deal in what we know right now. What we know right now is going into this debate, Trump was leading in all 7 of the swing states. In fact, today there was a more recent poll that had him leading in all 7 of them, even on a wider margin. And I head-to-head, which I don't buy these head-to-head national polls ever. You need to take it state by state. But Trump's leading going into the debate. Trump, for whatever reason, he really stayed within himself. He was cogent. He was reserved. He didn't take the bait when Biden was, calling him convicted felon, sleeping with porn stars. Trump stayed, and you pointed out, if this is the Trump he stays after the next 5 months, he's president. You know what, Megyn, it's over. We know what we know right now. Joe Biden against Trump. Trump is he's going to be the next president based on what we know at this very moment right now. There's no stopping him right now. The only thing that could possibly happen would be something that's probably never happened before. I'm not even sure it's ever happened in politics, but it's a Hail Mary pass. It's 4th down. There's 8 seconds left on the clock and they're down by 6. and they're going to have to throw a Hail Mary pass at the corner of the end zone. I don't think Joe Biden is Doug Flutie. He may be, but I just don't think it's going to happen. I think what you saw tonight was a slam dunk, a close the books. Katie, the game is over. Bar the doors. It's done. Donald Trump is the 47th president of the United States.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I don't know how you could deny it based on what we saw tonight. And we haven't talked much about Trump, and that's appropriate. The story tonight is Biden. But Trump was excellent. He was controlled. He was strong. His memory was like a steel trap tonight. He had details. He went back. He corrected Biden's mistakes. He kept his temperament in check. There were a couple of small moments where they did a little bickering. Fine. It was no big deal. It was just the best version of Donald Trump. I mean, the contrast was stunning.
You know, I loved, and people are going to laugh at this. I love the back and forth about the golf. It was trivial, and it was two guys but the reality is we see Trump hitting a golf ball 250 yards. We see Trump making his way around a golf course. We also see Joe Biden barely capable of getting, you showed the clip just a little bit earlier, of he can barely get off the stage. And for him to say that he's going to challenge Trump to a golf game, it just proves he's lying. He's just doing whatever he can to stay relevant. The reason why we're not talking about Trump is, you're right, because it was the story was Joe Biden tonight. And I opened with the Twitter trending on X. Trump wasn't one of them trending on X. Think about it. When is Trump not the one trending on X? He wasn't even on the list of 15 top trending. It was replacements for Biden. It was Biden. It was dementia. It was but not Donald Trump. And that's what he needs. You're right. That's the Trump he needs.
Yes, it was actually very impressive. I mean, good for him, because the stakes were high for him too. And he's only human. I'm sure he felt the pressure of having to go out there, and he nailed it, unlike his opponent. Right now, the name Gavin Newsom is getting mentioned a lot. He is on camera speaking to how this went. Here's a bit of it. He was on MSNBC.
You were out there getting a chorus of questions about whether Biden should step down. There is panic that has set in. There is panic that has set in among people who have watched this debate, who are Democrats, people who are strategists, and some even inside Democratic campaigns. Yeah. Do you think it's unfounded?
Well, I think it's unhelpful, and I think it's unnecessary. We've got to go in and got to keep our heads high. And as I say, we've got to have the back of this president. You don't turn your back because of one performance. What kind of party does that? It's been a masterclass. 15.6 million jobs. That's 8 times more than the last 3 Republican presidents combined. The only thing the last 3 Republican presidents have in common is recessions. Democrats deliver. This president has delivered. We need to deliver for him at this moment. With all due respect, the more time we start having these conversations, go down these rabbit holes, it's unhelpful to our democracy, our fate and future of this country, the world. They need us right now to step up, and that's exactly what I intend to do.
All right. So he's saying what he has to say. Go ahead.
This is exactly what I was saying before. The political class, the Democrat, the politicians are saying it's Biden and he's going to win, and Trump was terrible and Biden's amazing, and he can beat Trump. He's the guy. And the media, who've been basically providing cover for a failing president, both physically, but also the economy, and allowing him to say that inflation was 9% when he took over. They've been covering for him, and the media is now throwing their hands up and say, you politicians can do whatever the heck you want, but we can't cover for you anymore. So whatever happens from here on out, it's going to be on you. But I think this is just a watershed moment. Fantastic for the political process in America. It really is going to be interesting because,
Eric, it was so bad. Today is June 27th, right? June 27th. It was so bad. We actually could get a President Harris between now and November. We truly, he could get 25th Amendmented. That literally might be happening overnight tonight. There could be meetings about that.
They're not. They don't want to do that either, Megyn. They know she's the least popular vice president. She's a horrible candidate.
But he's not compos mentis.
He hasn't been for a long time, though. But so let's do this politically. They want to win. They don't want to lose the presidency, right? I think the surest way to lose it would be to have Joe step aside and let Kamala take over and pull on the second,
they're not going to run.
In charge.
They can't run her. I mean, you raise a good point, because if he steps aside and she becomes the president, then they have to run her, and they definitely don't want to run her. They're much more in love with.
They
Gretchen
may replace
Whitmer.
her with someone.
If they go with Gavin Newsom, I just there's zero chance he can beat Trump. Zero. Correct. That man is the most progressive, far left. He's transing children by the dozens as we speak. He's making it a safe haven for illegals, for people who want to chop their minor son's penis off. I mean, that guy is a lunatic in the way he runs his state. It would be an even greater gift to Trump to sub Biden out and put that guy in. I don't see that happening. I want to get to Kamala Harris. She has weighed in on the president's performance. Here's what she said.
Listen, first of all, what we saw tonight is the president making a very clear contrast with Donald Trump on all of the issues that matter to the American people. Yes, there was a slow start, but it was a strong finish. And what became very clear through the course of the night is that Joe Biden is fighting on behalf of the American people.
Slow start. That's going to be the spin. Slow start, Eric.
It's too late.
They don't realize
cracking.
It's too late.
Again, the politicians are the last to throw the towel in. They've needed, the army is kind of the media, they're left-wing media. They are, basically generals, NBC, MSNBC, CNN, and said, God, we're out of here. You want to do this? You're on your own. We wish you well, but it doesn't look good for them. So they'll come around. They'll come around. They got a month and a half till they're to the DNC convention in Chicago, which should be a bloodbath anyway, not literal, but a figurative bloodbath anyway with the protesters. They don't even know what they are. What is a Democrat now? What is Joe Biden? Are they pro-Israel? Are they anti-Israel? Are they pro-Palestine? They're all over the board. Look, it's like a sports team. You've crushed it now. You've got the playoffs. You nailed the playoffs. Now just don't screw it up. Just coast. You don't have to take chances anymore. Take Megyn's advice.
They shouldn't have agreed to this debate.
The Democrats?
Yeah, they never should have agreed to this debate. It was, and there is 100% not going to be another debate. We said this earlier this week.
Can I ask you something? Let me ask you something. May I ask you a question?
Yeah.
And I didn't hear the early part of the show. I was watching some of the other coverage. I'm going to say I think Tapper and more Tapper. So I think it was very fair. I thought he was even-handed. I didn't dislike the way he handled the moderation. I expected a lot more bias coming from Jake Tapper. And frankly, I think he did a very fair job. What are your thoughts?
I thought they both did a nice job. I thought if bias showed up in any way, it was in the topic selection. I mean, there was a lot on January 6th and climate change and race.
Abortion.
It's like, okay, not a single abortion, tons on abortion. Not a democracy, accepting the results of the next election. I mean, they didn't find any time whatsoever to talk about what has happened to young women and girls in this country as a result of Joe Biden's policies, the Title IX changes, the mutilation that we're doing of our children. I mean, I could go on. So yeah, that's CNN. That's fine. I'm sure CNN wasn't interested in any of those topics. I also thought they did a nice job of shrinking, staying businesslike, not injecting themselves too much, and keeping to relatively simple topics that we knew were going to come up. I have to say one thing, though. To have raised the possibility of weaponization of government as an issue in this debate, and to have not put that accusation against Joe Biden, to have raised it only against Donald Trump.
That's a great
You said
point.
If you get elected, you're going to do it.
Right.
Meanwhile, it's being done 4 times over to Donald Trump. That was egregious to me.
And
no one operates a perfect debate.
To Trump's credit, he took that and didn't make it about himself. You watch him in rallies and debates, it's all about himself. He turned it into January 6th people were treated improperly, were treated poorly, unfairly, with bias. They shouldn't have done what they've done to the January 6th people and let the George Floyd rioters completely get a pass. So Trump didn't make that about himself. And I thought that was very refreshing. And maybe they thought, maybe
and he
they were
did bring
trying
up
to
the
hook Trump
lawfare
in.
against him.
Yeah, a little bit.
He did bring up the lawfare against him with that. Like, I mean, when they got into the storm, Joe Biden, that's the other thing. Joe Biden went low. He went low, bringing up the Stormy Daniels thing by name. You had sex with a porn star, making Trump deny that on the stage. He was getting desperate, and desperate people behave badly. That's what we saw. I got to go, Eric, because I've got a bunch of callers on the line that I want to get to. Great to see you, my friend. Thanks for being here.
You too, Megyn. Talk to you again soon.
All right. We've got our fans and our friends at SiriusXM callers calling in. I want to get to Aaron in South Dakota. Aaron, what'd you think about tonight?
I just wanted to share that, and this is not meant in a mean way at all. It's really not. But the group chat, and a large group chat I'm in, there were multiple people who were saying, I've seen this with my grandma, or one girl said she works with people. Like, Democrat or Republican, if you've seen someone suffering from dementia, Alzheimer's, old age, whatever label you want to put on it, it's real. And I don't know how you deny it. Like, it's just, like you said, the sound that came out of my roommate, who's not very political, when he trailed off was, oh, and that's just what it is.
Yeah, no, it was extremely uncomfortable. Like I said, we were actually grabbing each other like, oh God, watching it through your hands. Like, I can't watch this. This is too uncomfortable. And if you were experiencing it and we were experiencing it, I'm sure tons of people listening to us felt the same, had the same. That's not how you want to look at your president. The answer of whether he can do 4 more years was being answered just by the behavior and the stumbles. Thanks for calling in. Let's go up north of the border to somebody who is in Canada, and that's Ayana. Hi, Ayana, what's on your mind?
Hi, Megyn. First of all, I want to say that I love your show, and I'm so grateful for you for never being afraid to speak the truth.
Thank you.
So thank you for that. And I just want to say, on a political level, after witnessing what I witnessed tonight, I really am going to pray that the American people get out there and vote. And I think it's pretty clear that President Trump is going to be the next president if Joe Biden does not bow out. That being said, on a human level, I think that this is literally elder abuse. Like a lot of people have said, like the caller previous to me said, I also lost my grandfather to Alzheimer's and dementia. And before he even spoke tonight, you can see there's this distinct look, that stare.
Yes.
And I think that it's not even, it's not his fault. And I'm talking in a human level. I think,
I agree.
He's a terrible president. But besides that, as a mom, as a human being, I think that the real crime here is not Donald Trump. I think the real crime here is that these enablers and that these people that are profiting from him being in office are allowing this man to clearly just be abused. And I think
I agree with you. They're not letting him leave with dignity. And I object. The people around him who are lucid and young and understand really have to do some soul searching about what they've done here. I want to tell the audience, as you were talking, headline comes in from Persuasion, a popular digital magazine. The headline is "The Night the Biden Presidency Ended." That's very similar to what we've been saying right here on the MK Show. Let's take another caller. Go down to Virginia and Antonia. Antonia, what did you think of the debate?
Hey, how's it going, Megyn? Thanks so much for taking my call. First off, I want to say I'm a huge fan. Love your show. Girl, you're doing the right thing. I'm glad you're doing this and not the mainstream media stuff anymore. You're rocking it. But that stuff aside, I happen to work over here in the 5-sided puzzle palace, by the way. I'm stationed here at Arlington. So I was actually in Qatar and Afghanistan during the Doha peace talks in 2019. And so to walk away from that for my deployment there and then to see the botched withdrawal, in Afghanistan, it was pretty embarrassing, to say the least. And so for the president to either complicitly say that he didn't have anyone, needlessly die in his term, or maybe he just forgot. I don't know. Either way, it's pretty bad. So that blew my mind. And then, I look at this through the lens of national security. I mean, does does he sit in on the meetings that we have, like with the NSA and, you know, all these really high-level classification meetings that generally the commander-in-chief and his staff are a part of? Like, can you imagine the kind of stuff that he gets, told? And,
I know. Look at the way Jill Biden
it's really
had to speak to him tonight, right? Look at the way his wife is speaking to him. You answered all the questions. And this man is supposed to be in those NSA meetings, understanding the intricate details of our national security portrait and making decisions to protect us and the rest of the world based on them. It's a deeply alarming evening. Thank you for calling. Thank you for your kind words too. We got to wrap it up because we're almost to the end of the show. But I want to tell you, I appreciate you being here. We're going to be back on the air live, as we always are, between 12 and 2 on SiriusXM, channel 111. And we'll also release the podcast and the YouTube in just a bit later after that show, youtube.com/Megyn Kelly. Tomorrow on the show, we've got Steve Bannon. It's going to be an extraordinary day. I haven't spoken with him ever. He launched quite a bit of attacks against me after the 2016 election, the 2015 debate. I responded occasionally to him. I wasn't his biggest fan. This will be the first time we've talked, and it's the perfect night because Steve Bannon, as he gets shipped off to jail by this Biden administration, knows a thing or two about what they're capable of and about how to fight them. And if they do not pull Joe Biden, it's going to have to be all hands on deck because he cannot win another term. You know that in your heart. Thank you for being with us tonight. See you tomorrow.